This topic, agribusinesses, is so relevant because it seems obvious, does it not, that through sub-Saharan Africa, which has abundant land, water, and people, why this is not, Africa is one of the great agricultural powerhouses of the world. And if it's going to be, and it could be, what are the obstructions, and what are the issues that need to be addressed by everybody here? We're looking at it in a very business-like way, but we're also looking at basic principles. So let me introduce our panel. So as you look at the panel from the left, very delighted to welcome Sophia Kaduma, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security and Cooperatives in Tanzania. And Sophia is based in Dar es Salaam, House of Peace, special historical connection, of course, with this part of the world. And Sophia will be talking a little bit, well, a lot, I hope, during this session about Tanzania's experiences, the lessons that everybody can learn in this sphere. As you move across, second from your left is Dr. John Atkin, Chief Operating Officer at Syngenta, based in Switzerland. Dr. John, his PhD is actually study of slugs, I understand, he was telling me, but he's been working in the agricultural sector for more than 30 years. As a business person and someone with a passion for the sector and for Africa and its people. As you move across, second from your left, third from your left, second from your right, that's it, put your hand up, Ranveer. Ranveer Chauhan is Managing Director for Africa and Olam International based in Singapore. Again, someone with great insights and great passion for the food security and the food challenges, looking at it from a private sector perspective. And then on the far right is Mark McFarland, Chief Investment Strategist for Emirates MBD here in UAE, and he's our financial expert who's going to be raising all those objections that bankers do when you come up with a brilliant idea which seems to make so much sense. But where would we be without you? So that's it. Well, first of all, what we're going to do is going to have a little introductory statement for everybody, in which they will introduce themselves to you, the organisations that they're with, where they are now and where they see the future, particularly when we're looking at the aggregate business and the agriculture challenge in Africa. So first of all, Sophia, thank you, welcome.
Thank you.
So a few words about the ministry and the government of Tanzania, the background for Tanzania, and a little bit about the country, if you can summarise it, and then the vision for the future. So go ahead, Sophia.
Thank you very much. As the moderator has just said, I come from the Ministry of Agriculture, Food Security and Cooperatives, and our job there is to initiate policies on the agricultural sector and strategies and programs. One of the issues which we are dealing with, I would say, is that in Tanzania, agriculture, like in any other African country, is really the backbone of the economy. Maybe just to say a few words about that, it accounts for example, 27% of our GDP. 27%. It provides earnings, or it employs 75% of our population.
3/4 of
it provides 95% of the food we eat. In good years, we get 100%, but under normal circumstances, about 95%. And that sector also provides earnings, export earnings. About 35% of the earnings we get is from agriculture in its raw form.
So Tanzania,
so that is what we do in the agricultural sector. But we have.
Can I just ask one question, just so people know, what is the population of Tanzania now?
Our population right now is 45 million people in Tanzania, but we think the number is going to increase as years goes by. But what we have noted that our agriculture is still subsistence in nature. And we have a huge potential. We have more than 44 million hectares of land, which is arable which is suitable for agriculture, but we are using only
44 million hectares.
Yes, we are
of agricultural land with potential.
Yes, but we are using only 22 or 23% of that. currently. So we have ample land, but we think we can produce more in the agriculture sector. We can produce enough for ourselves, and we can produce enough to feed our colleagues in the region and export outside the region of East Africa. So because of that, the government has decided now that we commercialize our agriculture. Our agriculture is peasant-based, smallholder farmers, and they produce subsistence agriculture. But we think with the improved technologies, we can modernize our agriculture. We have decided to go in an approach whereby we want to include private sector in our agricultural sector. We want private sector to invest, both the local private sector and international private sector.
Well, we're not going to do so. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
Because the question is how.
Yeah.
Everything is there. Huge population, massive amount of land, plenty of water.
Yes.
Plenty of water?
We have plenty of water.
It's got it all. So how do you get from where you are now, and how can people in this room help? Solutions on this panel as well. So Dr. Atkin, just tell us a little bit again about yourself, about your company, and what your goals and objectives are in this conference and when you lead this conference tomorrow.
Right. Well, the company Syngenta, you might recognize the name Ciba-Geigy and ICI. We were formed 13 years ago now, a merger of two very large agricultural businesses, which at that time were Novartis and AstraZeneca. We're a leader in this field. We develop, we market, we supply, we sell all forms of agricultural technology, seeds, genetically modified where they're appropriate, conventional where they're not, lots of biological technology, chemical technology, and lots of know-how to go with it, because we recognize operating in 100 territories around the world directly, it's farmer know-how is a big thing, as Sophia has indicated. Why am I here? We committed a year ago now to invest $500 million more in Africa. We've been in Africa for decades, but we said, now's the time. So we're putting 500 million in, and we did something which public companies...
I mean, when you say 500 million, is that investment in assets? What do you mean by that?
Okay, yes, but it's people, it's technologies, it's demonstration farms,
But it's investment. It's an investment program.
Oh, it's absolutely investment. Over 10 years, and we made a commitment that public companies, I think, rarely make. We put our mouth where our money is, if I can put it like that, and we said, we'll contribute to increasing smallholder yields by 50% over this period. It's all about smallholders. There are 60 million of them over Africa, more than.
60 million smallholders in Africa, but that is family groups, isn't it? So it's probably a couple of 100 million people.
Yes, it is. It's family groups. And the fascinating point is, of those 65 million, 50 million of them are pre-commercial. So these are farms
pre-commercial means they're not actually selling anything.
They're rarely selling enough to sustain the population around them. So the potential that there is to improve those pre-commercial farmers into commercial farmers is what we're all about. And through working in partnerships with other technology suppliers, governments, research stations, we're committed to trying to improve those yields.
And your personal experience in Africa, can you share a little bit about?
Sure. Well, look, I've 35 years in the industry, worked all over the world, have worked quite a bit in Africa, but I have to say that most of my experience in Africa has been in Kenya, has been in South Africa, has been in North Africa, and the whole development that we're embarking on in Tanzania and Zambia and Central and Western and Southern Africa is relatively new for the company, but we have already activities there. But for a company of our size, $14 billion and $1 billion or more in R&D, we haven't been doing so much there. So this is why we've made this commitment.
Okay, and then what are you looking for? I mean, now we're on the subject. You've got 500 million. Was it dollars? Did you
dollars.
Say? Yeah. And they're looking. Are you looking for partners? Are you looking for projects, or is it pre-allocated?
All of the above. I mean, we have partnerships already ongoing. We have one in Tanzania that maybe we can talk about later. We're working with. We have a foundation. The company has a foundation, which is a charitable organization, which works with really pre-commercial farmers that aren't going to escape that trap very easily. But it's all of that. It's traditional development, it's partnerships, it's downstream projects. We work with Nestle, for example, in cocoa. So it's really about partnerships, if I had to pick one word.
So you're looking for partners?
We are.
And partners here, potentially, in the Middle East as well?
Most welcome. I mean, investment is what's going to make the difference here. And
so you're interested in matching a bit of your investment with investment here from the Middle East, possibly?
Well, why not? I mean, I think that when we get more deeply into what's required, as you said, Edmund, the how-to, I think that'll open up the conversation into those areas.
Good. Okay, well, Ranbir, same question. Just put a bit deeper in the picture about Olam International, and what it does, its vision for the future, and the African dimension.
Thank you, Edmund. My congratulations first for the forum, an exceptional city to visit always, and the commitment now of Dubai Inc. towards Africa is really unique. I have not seen it anywhere else. It's most heartening for me to come here. Olam, my employer, I have been working with Olam since '93, practically all my career. Olam started in Nigeria. We are in the agri-commodity space. We are integrated supply chain managers. That means we do trading, we handle the logistics, we handle and process, do the primary processing of many agriculture commodities. We started in Africa in Nigeria in 1989. Today we are present in 65 countries with headquarters in Singapore. We do have a significant African presence even today. 24 countries of direct presence and 29 countries we service with our products, services, and engagement with the growing and the consuming communities. We buy stuff like cocoa, coffee, cashew, sesame, cotton from Africa, and we bring into Africa some of the deficit commodities, again in the agriculture and the food space, rice, edible oil, sugar, newly some packed products. Olam, I would say that we are experts of the agri-commodity space and emerging markets, specifically Africa. We know Africa very well. It was heartening to hear John before me, and we do have conversations with John, with Syngenta, about what we could do together. Africa is really opening up, but we have been in Africa before it became a fancy place. So today it's a fancy place for everybody. Everybody wants to go there. We have been in agri-commodities before it became a very attractive sector. Today, in fact, some of the investors would say that agri-commodity, the peak is past. But Olam got into agri-commodities not because it was the hot topic at that time, because we wanted to build our careers and our commitment into this sector. We are hugely committed to Africa and to agri-commodity.
Just before I move on, just a perspective on the agricultural commodities market. I mean, for someone who, as I do, who just looks at it from the outside, and you know that it tends to be unstable. It seems to be a bit of an odd market for a number of different reasons. How would you help us understand the agricultural commodities market? It's influenced by things like the European Union, North American government policy. It's a distorted market, sometimes an artificial market. Have I got that wrong? Or what is the market, the big picture story for agricultural commodities as you see it today?
Agriculture commodities, you would in one way consider it as a subset, as a small part of the total commodity space. Commodities would include metals, ores, mining-related activities over there. Agriculture commodity is a small part of that.
That's
one
from
way
a
to
financial point of view. That's from a trading point of view, you would say.
Yes. So that's one way to look at it. But okay. Agriculture commodities is a space in itself. It concerns food.
Correct.
It concerns land that not every geography is as lucky, as blessed as Africa on that part. It concerns rural populations and it concerns employment. So it is a very nuanced sector. It's not very easy to invest in. It is not as if you can just come in, bring in $1 billion and invest into agri-commodity space and it will transform in the next 1.5 years. It takes time, it takes expertise, and you need to build capacity of the communities around before you can make those kind of investments.
And how stable is it as a market? I mean, it's a market which is highly politicized, isn't it? Because nobody can be indifferent to global agricultural product supply and demand, can they?
Hugely stable. It is related to food and consumption. Food, some part of it industrial, like when we grow cotton. So it is about what cotton will get used for. It's used for clothing and industrial fabric. Largely agriculture commodities will be about food. Direct human consumption as well as consumption for animals, which in turn are related to human requirements again. So I would consider it a very stable.
I mean, reliable from a business point of view. But anyway, it's a big issue, the global agricultural commodities, and how it's best managed and how individual producers fed in. But I want to move on quickly to Mark from Emirates NBD. You're the banker here, but just tell us about Emirates NBD and why you're on this panel.
Good evening, everyone. I work as the Chief Investment Strategist for the wealth management part of Emirates NBD. It's the largest banking operation in the GCC region. And we have offices in London and also in Singapore. So we have an increasingly global spread in our business activities. We have a fully fledged suite of products. We're investment banking, corporate banking, wholesale banking, and also wealth management. So we're here essentially to really try and push into the African market. What we've seen over the last couple of years is Africa really becoming to some extent, the emerging market story of the day. If you go to a lot of the investment forums around the world, Africa, the frontier markets of Africa really are extremely exciting for investors. A lot of people want to invest in markets. They've made money in Nigeria, they've made money in Kenya, they've made money in African private equity ventures. So trying to get that message across to clients, trying to get that message across to potential companies that you can put private capital together with people seeking capital in Africa. That's the role that we're really trying to play in this forum.
And a fully integrated role, so that's trade finance, project finance if required,
yes,
management of money, savings, both for your customers here in the region and in any customers you might have in Africa.
Exactly. We're building a private banking wealth management business, which essentially means that you have large pools of capital, say in the GCC. You want to align that capital with high rates of return that you can get either in the agricultural sector in Africa, or whether it's in mining, or whether it's in banking itself. So there's a lot of capital in this part of the world that's looking for rates of return, and Africa offers you a really good opportunity.
So you think your bank hopes to have a larger portion of its balance sheet and its income being derived directly or indirectly from business with Africa over the next 10 years.
Exactly.
And what about the network on the ground? Is that going to be developing?
It's a project at its very, very beginnings. As I said, Africa really only from a banking perspective in the wealth management business, it's only really been over the last couple of years that you've seen that level of excitement in the African market.
Okay, well that's the introduction. So now we get on to the real substance of this, and we were nibbling at it just then. I was approaching. So let's talk about the big picture story as far as our panelists are concerned. I want to turn to Sophia about how a country and a government is addressing these big stories. So first of all, Ranbir, I mean, when you're looking at the development of agribusinesses in Africa and engage in the Middle East in it, what are the big opportunities? What are the big challenges?
See one?
Oh, Sophia.
I'm sorry, it's Sophia?
Okay.
Thank you.
No, I was going to call in after we've had this little,
Okay.
and then I'll ask you to come in with the Tanzania's experience as we talk about more global terms. Yeah, sorry, Ranbir.
The way I look at it, Edmund, compared to the global scenario of agri-commodity and the food space, Africa, for the past couple of decades that I have seen it, I have not seen discussions and debates around food security, so which would be odd. We are not talking about food security in a food deficit region, is one point I would like to make. Second, it has got huge arable land available, not fully or not properly utilized yet. Three, it has got serious unemployment or underemployment. So it is hidden unemployment in the rural area where we feel that the guy is occupied full time, but he could actually deliver so much more. And I have not seen cogent and coherent government policies of investing in this sector as I have seen in some other geographies. So when I say these would be the 4 headline items I put in, and that suggests the opportunity in hand.
Right.
So for me, that is not the gap. That is the opportunity.
That's the opportunity, which is just remind us again that food security is not established as a policy. The other 3 I should take to that.
Arable land and available manpower for working in this sector. Now, we need to talk about it as food security first before we reach any other level in Africa, and we need to talk about investment frameworks for this sector. So for me, these 4 could be the top headlines.
So those are 4 talking points. So, John, your perspective on the big issue as far as, I mean, you're poised to put this major investment into African agriculture. What do you think are the opportunities and the challenges and things that you've heard discussed, or maybe new factors that people need to think about when they're looking at this sector?
Well, great. Some excellent comments made here. I think what was fascinating for me to read, there's a World Bank report which has just come out a few weeks ago, and it says the agriculture and agribusiness economy of sub-Saharan Africa should reach $1 trillion. It's about 1/3 of that today. I mean, and they have a very good way they almost audit where we are and what could happen. Let me offer you perhaps three insights that we believe in strongly about how to make this happen. The first is that the potential, as has already been mentioned, for farmers to increase yields that are, on average, 50 or 25% of their true potential is proven. I think we've shown in our work and in cooperation in Tanzania and other places that on different farms, you can raise yields in 1 year by 50 or 100%.
What's missing?
What's missing, what you do to do that is you have a protocol. So you say, here are the things you have to do. And every farmer is a general businessman. He's an entrepreneur. And it's just too much to expect smallholder farmers who haven't had the benefit of education to be able to manage all this. So if you say, look, here's how to do it, we'll help you, we'll show you. It's quite remarkable what can be achieved in only one education, but it's following a protocol. And so what does he need? He needs 2 things to do that. He needs a bit of money to invest, but the payback is very rapid, 1 to 3 or 1 to 5. So he pays 1, he may get 3 or 5 or even more. And so once he's got over that initial investment, then the payback's very rapid, and he invests then in his children, in his home, in his community, and it's very rapid.
So that's the productivity challenge, that's one.
Productivity challenge, that's one, and the financing of it. The second is all about, I think, how to do this at scale, which I think, if I can say it, is the essence of what you're trying to drive at here. How can we do this at scale? And, farmers are, because they're individuals and because they're entrepreneurs, it's quite a lonely life being a farmer. And they love to talk to other farmers. They love to go to demonstrations. They love to network. And what we've discovered all over the world is if you get the right sort of farming group together, prove what can be done, and then organize these demonstrations, you can transfer technology and know-how really quite readily across.
What do you mean demonstrations? You mean educational demonstrations?
Well, you show, look, here is the rice field.
Yeah.
Here's how we treat it.
Not revolutions, we're talking about demonstrations.
Oh, yes, demonstrations of that nature, yeah.
We're living through the Arab Spring. So
I understand that word has another meaning, yeah. So, the capacity for farmers to take on know-how and to deploy it is really quite impressive.
Okay, 2 challenges. Well, the productivity challenge, which you say can be addressed through education, but then scale. How do you do this scale? So you've got a national program. We'll come back to her in a minute because we're talking about 2/3 of the population of her country. But finally, we're talking to, well, here we are, all getting excited now. Ranjit has said, look, there's a fantastic opportunity. He's analysing the gaps, these issues, and Peter said there are solutions. So from a banker's point of view, as an investor, talking to investors, when they look at agribusiness in Africa, what are the things, the objections that come up if you're sitting in a room, or you imagine you're sitting in a room with people, or your credit committee or your board of directors, and you're saying, Africa agribusiness, I think we need to go there, we've got these wonderful people to work with. What are the kind of pecking order of issues and objections that you might hear in your own institution if that topic came up?
I think the main one is a lack of understanding. As I said at the very beginning, for many people, investing into whether it's tradable equities or private equity, this is a new market, it's a new frontier. So there's a lack of understanding of the politics. There's a lack of understanding quite often of the culture, and getting across that this is a perfectly normal continent. It isn't, as was said this morning, the lost continent.
Is the subject too big? If you say Africa and a continent, wouldn't it not be better to focus on individual countries? Is that a better approach?
That's exactly right. If you break down the MSCI constituents in Africa, you've got Tunisia, Mauritius, you've got Nigeria. Those are countries, for example, that are considered to be top quality African markets. So I think to some extent it makes a lot of sense to look at individual countries. The other thing that's actually quite important is having the right partner in specific countries and having the right partner to source, whether it's transactions for you or information. That partner is on the ground, that partner is internationally credible, and so that you can actually offer, whether it's a club deal or whether it's some form of transaction to customers, and it's credible. And that's actually very, very important.
Now, in your case, do you have that partner in African countries? You do?
Yes.
And how many countries do you have coverage with a partner from the financial services sector?
In terms of we essentially offer three services. There's listed equities, so you'll have partners who will give you mutual fund access to the sector. Right. You'll have private equity, and then also you'll have regular direct investment or trade finance type of.
So the trade finance, you need counterparty institutions. You have those in place in most countries.
Those are agreements that we want to look into.
So. Okay, well, the partner, that's critical, and we'll come to that in a second. But let's just look more closely at the Tanzanian experience. What your policies are.
Okay.
You mentioned this, that this is absolute priority for your people and your economy. So let's talk about your policies. What are your policies, and what opportunities does it offer to people in this room?
Okay. As I said earlier, that as a country we have decided to commercialize our agriculture, because we see that our agriculture needs to be improved. As I said, 33 years or 66 or 99, depending on the investment you want to enter into. If you are not using that land, we revoke it, because in Tanzania, land is public land. Yeah. So in a nutshell, that is it. But we are creating an enabling environment in that, okay, once you come and invest there, we would like to add value of the commodities you produce locally and sell outside the processed commodities. We have opened cross-border trade. We are not denying people to export surpluses, but we are encouraging the smallholder farmers and other farmers back home to produce and make sure that they have first their food and then sell whatever is surplus. So that is the process we are going in Tanzania.
Excellent. So you've had, in many respects, a model. So you've got a top-level commitment from the government. The policy is clearly declared with the backing of the government. There's enabling legislation, so you have a framework which is clear and transparent you're working on. You've got a pilot project, in a way, which you said 63,000 hectares, which is now being rolled out.
Yeah, we have 63,000 hectares, but right now we are also parceling other land we are going to advertise soon.
Okay.
Yeah, once we are through, because we don't want now investors to come and go to the villages and take land from the villages.
Right.
Yeah, because we have seen some problems on that area. So what we are doing now, in a transparent manner, we are parceling land for investment, and we advertise it.
So the packages of land, you divide them up to 5,000 to 20,000 hectares, depending on the
commodity.
You're choosing chosen two clear commodity areas and specialisms, plus livestock, and then you're advertising. Just in terms of this first rollout of the pilot. So you've advertised. Have you had the bids come in yet?
Yeah, we have already received, and I think there is a team which is evaluating that one.
So you've had a response.
Yeah,
but you haven't
many responses.
But you haven't actually done the deals yet.
Not yet. Yeah.
Right. And so this bid round is closed.
This big round is closed, and we want to go to the second round because in 2 years' time we want to have 25 bids closed, deals closed.
Okay, so
Yeah, so we have some deals to be made.
And then the proposals, it's open. It's the local investors from Tanzania, regional investors, international investors. You're open.
We are open.
You're open. And when the procurement documentation, the documentation is set out so you can study it, and then the bids go in. How are you going to, quite a challenge, to reach a conclusion about a winning bid, because it's going to be a combination of how they will do it and the commitments they're making, as well as the best price offer as well, isn't it? You're looking for a combination of price and quality in your bids and the bids that are coming in. Is that correct?
Yeah, we are looking for many things. We have in our when we advertise, we say what we are going to look at. We are looking at the number of jobs it creates.
Is that number one priority?
Yeah. Those are the issues which we are looking. We are looking at the impact on food security. We are looking at impact on reducing imports. So we are looking size and the size and how they are going to do it. And the major ones is that the proposal has to say they are going to go into this nucleus approach.
Right.
If we see just a large-scale farm, that one we don't accept. It has to be a nucleus outgrowers arrangement, because our objective really is to reduce poverty and food security. Those two things are our key.
And then the lease, you're committed to 33 years minimum.
Yes, 33 minimum, maximum 99.
Up to 99.
Yeah.
And the people are putting a price. Is that right? Is that they're also quoting a price? There's a price factor, commercial factor here as well.
Okay, yes, maybe they will be. I'm not an expert in that area, but that is what I assume it.
So there will be a quote. How
but
much
really,
they're
it's
prepared
the
to pay.
proposal. It's not a price as such, because we are not selling land. You are going to use land to develop. So I would not say it's a price per se.
Yeah, you're leasing. You're prepared to how much you're prepared to pay on an annual basis for the lease contract. So here we have an example. It's going to be tested. This year, I guess, we'll have the outcome of it.
Yeah.
So you will see. And it hits a number of the issues you raised, didn't it? Which is the food security, use of land, people, and scale.
Yeah.
So
no, it's excellent. I mean, I think, just throwing a couple, for the land question, ideally it should be secure land rights and tradable. This is the other thing. I don't know to what extent these land rights will be tradable, but for many farmers, they want that opportunity not to necessarily be there forever, but to be able to trade it in the right way, and that's perhaps one.
Well, you mean investors?
No, I mean people who are actually going to do the farming. You'd be better to comment on that than myself. But I think security is the first thing, and then tradability is a desirable asset to have in land, as it is in many developed places. I think the other thing is people. It's very interesting when you compare Africa with Asia. Now there's a shortage of labor for farming in Asia. It's quite acute, and we're involved in projects of mechanization and other things to deal with that. When you look at the stats in sub-Saharan Africa, there'll be 25 million every year additional young people to work. And I'm not talking about low-grade work. I think with the right training programs, and I'm back to the agriculture is one part, but agribusiness is another. The supply chains, the tradability, the processing of commodities. I mean, the potential here is huge. You've got the people, you've got the land, you've got excellent government policies coming together. It just requires holding the nerve and seeing these policies through, and I think one can be optimistic about this.
I think it requires commitment.
Commitment,
for people who are going to really believe. It's not just a business, this.
Yeah, maybe to share with you, we have tested this model. It's working. We already have an investor, more than two, who are already on the ground right now. One is already working. The investor is producing paddy, Around him, he has about 5,000 hectares of land. Around him, we have smallholder farmers, and he has trained the smallholder farmers. And now the smallholder farmers are producing 8 tons per hectare. The yields have improved from 2 tons per hectare up to 8 tons per hectare. The nucleus farm is producing 4 tons per hectare with sophisticated irrigation equipments, pivotal type and whatever, with the states of arts. But he is producing lower than the smallholder farmers. So we are getting the understanding that smallholder farmers with their small plots, they can produce more, because right now the yields are very low. They can improve their yields with this arrangement, and it's working. We have also another deal which is under negotiation right now, that started last year, and this one will be for sugarcane production, and outgrowers will be about 3,000 farmers, and we have discussed with the African Development Bank. They have agreed to give us resources to assist these smallholder farmers invest in irrigation infrastructure alongside the large-scale farmer who is around there. We think in the long run it will be paying.
The key issue, one of the key issues for everything, you will see how this works. You believe it will. I'm interested to hear what Ranju has to say as well with his own experience. Key factor is infrastructure.
Yeah.
Roads, electricity.
Yeah.
Who's going to do that?
That is the challenge. We are trying as government, but our resources is meager.
So
we are working together with development partners, but I think within the partnership arrangement, somehow we will manage.
Let me
Okay, Ranju,
Yeah.
jump in.
We have tried the aid model for 50 years in Africa. When I say we, as a general, it does not bring the desired results. Desired results, at least for the past decade, all of us have been saying, will come through private sector investments, because private sector investments are largely guided by logic.
Yeah.
They may not be simply driven by policy. If we focus, there are 2-3 points I want to make here. If we want to reach food security in Africa, I think we need $50 billion of investment in agriculture.
50 billion.
50 billion. $50 billion of investment will take us about 5 to 6 million hectares of new agricultural land, which will deliver high quality yields. So that is what will be required. I believe it is possible if we get to a roadmap about 10-12 years to do that. Now, around that, you will need to develop outgrowers. The thing is, you cannot start with outgrowers because Mark and other banking colleagues will just not know how to finance the outgrowers. They just don't know how to do the smallholder farmer. You do it by first focusing on corporates. I would say you require across Africa about 10,000 corporates. When I'm saying corporate, they are SMEs to large scale. We are not talking about you are signing off 300,000 hectares of land to any one company. It's pointless. It will take them a decade. I would rather give a corporate maybe 20,000 hectares at a time. They need to really show that they're making progress there. So first is food security. I'm saying the core will be private sector, large-scale farming. Luckily, Africa is open to that. African policymakers are open to that idea. Keep India in mind when I say that. India does not allow corporate farming. It does not like. It cannot afford. The point that I cannot answer is today, let us say 600 million Africans live in the rural area. You can imagine that they are agriculture related. Let's say 300 million are adults in that. In any modern society, maybe 20 million people should be doing that job. So I do not know what to do with the 280 million people who will be released into the workforce. So that is one part we'll have to be very careful about, and that is where the outgrower program comes. And we have to look towards Indonesia and Malaysia, what they have been able to do over the past 30 years, 40 years with their outgrower program. One generation, a core of corporate farming surrounded by government-driven program like FELDA in Malaysia, or individual corporate farms corporate entities given the responsibility for outgrower programs. That is the Indonesian model. Very successful. They pulled out practically all their population out of poverty level through these programs. And they have become food surplus regions. They were like Africa when they started 40 years ago. Today they are food surplus. They feed the world. So I would add these to our discussion today.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jim. Okay, now the time, we've got about 10 minutes for questions or comments. If anybody would like to pitch in, there's I see a hand here, three questions. Microphone, people? 4. Right, I think that's going to use up all our available time. Microphone? Good microphone? No, I'm going to get involved in this. Make it quicker. Gentleman at the front here is the first one. Lady here. You had your hand up there. Oh, there's more hands going up now. Please, go for it. Okay. Say who you are.
Yeah, my name is Hartmut Reinke. I'm from DuPont, so relatively close to Mr. Atkins. But I am not talking about competition here. I think it will be a fruitful one, especially for Africa. We have developed together with the Economist Intelligence Unit what we call a food security index. As far as you have not seen it, you might want to look into that, and there are all the aspects we have discussed today more or less in. And it is probably even a little bit more than we have discussed, and we had in an earlier discussion today heard about the difficulties to transport a car from the coast into the country, and that it adds easily $5,000. When I think about a car weighs about 1 ton or 1.5, and I add $5,000 to a ton of wheat, then this is not doable. And I think the infrastructure piece for Africa is the #1 challenge. And when we increase the yields, that is good and well. When at the end there is no market, that is difficult. Africa will double its population, I think, to 2 billion. And the question I believe we need to discuss here is, most of them will go into big cities, urbanization. There needs to be an infrastructure into the local cities. And we should not dream about a global thing. I think it needs to become very, very local. What needs to be developed, the production, and the local markets there as well. Maybe that's worthwhile thinking about how that works, that we're not dreaming about too big infrastructure, but very directed from the field directly to the developing big cities in one place.
Great. Well, that's just a comment. I mean, I've got to take some more. And who else had the hand up? This lady here, you had your hand up, please. Can you say who you are and then put your point?
My name is Ida Nasera. I'm an advisor to the Prime Minister of Congo, DRC. I'm actually in charge of agribusiness. My question will go to the 3 gentlemen in front. I believe there is the managing director of Olam, and Olam is known for palm oil, if I'm not mistaken, and the financier was there. DRC has decided that it's enough of being known of only mining sector. Last year only we imported close to $2 billion of food. And everyone here, if you know a little bit of Africa and Congo in particular, we have arable land, we have water, we could feed Africa actually. And the actual government has decided that from now on, agriculture will be the backbone of our economy. Because we have stabilized the economy, but that growth is not shown in everyday life of Congolese people, because you cannot distribute whatever you're getting from mining to the rest of the population. And only agriculture can do that. And we are preparing policies very similar to Tanzania, where we've decided to go into commercial farming. And to do that, we know we have challenges. We have peace challenges. Luckily, we're solving that with the UN, which has changed its mission in Congo. But also, we have infrastructure problems. But to solve that, we're going one step at a time. As I said earlier, we're doing something similar to Tanzania, whereby we identify site, and could be 5,000, could be 50,000, but not exactly like Tanzania, but because we have food problem, we're not actually deciding on what crop one can do. We've done our survey. We can tell you that this site, according to the soil analysis, is good for this and that. But what is good about what we're trying to do is that the government is ready to put all infrastructure in, meaning roads, energy, and making water available for irrigation. So I'm sorry to take the microphone and start talking about Congo, but my question, it boils down to, what can you guys do about Congo? I haven't heard anyone talking about Congo, and it's very painful. So, are you guys choosing countries, or can you one day come to Congo as well? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Sorry, your name again is Ida Nasaroba. We're delighted to have a voice from Congo here, and excellent to hear this positive commitment from the government of Congo to an agricultural policy which has so much promise. I'll take a few more questions, then you can pitch in. Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Session Chair. My name is Sile Shisregaye. I came from Uganda. I just make an observation. You are seeing agribusiness or agricultural in isolation of other activities. The gentleman said that there is excess labor. Where do you take it? There should be a comprehensive program to accommodate and look into agro-processing and a sort of comprehensive program, including the structures for roads and everything. So when you are envisaging this kind of program, it should be a comprehensive one, not only agriculture, but small-scale agro-processing factories. If you are thinking of, okay, if you are thinking of corn, you can as well think of cornflakes. If you are thinking of cassava, porridges, and so on and so forth. So please think in that way, not in isolation. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's because of my background. I'm a strategic management expert.
You go, just we have two questions there. Short response.
Yeah. Can I start?
I would say that to make huge progress, we can look at Dubai, we can look at Singapore. They did not make very big choices initially when they wanted to transform their economies. Just find the investor, let them come in. When he says corn, I would say don't say cornflakes, say corn. Let him do it. Yep. Let us get some investors first. Let us make a start.
I think this is an excellent point. By the way, all the comments were right on, and yes to the Congo, and we'd love to play a part in that. But you have to start somewhere, and this is one of the themes of this discussion, if I can say so, is partnerships. And we absolutely, this is all about partnerships. I think you're hearing it from different angles here, and I think we're all acknowledging that integration with downstream and infrastructure and processing, yes, but we have to start somewhere. I mean, without the yield, there's nothing to process, and I think that's why I certainly came from that angle.
Well, I think there's two volunteers here.
Maybe to add on that is that our program, the one which I'm talking about, we are looking across the value chain. That's why this nucleus farm is very important to us, because they have to look at the whole value chain. It's not only if you are producing, let's say, paddy, you end up at that stage, but you have to process, you have to package it, you have to do all sorts of things with that. If you are looking at whatever the commodity, you have to go through the value chain. That is the approach which we have embarked on.
The point that the lady was making, why not Congo? I'll try to give a picture with that. So, like I said, the logic is to go private sector. Private sector because Mark and the bankers would say, yes, we can invest where you go because you are thinking clearly. So I need to show him that I'm thinking clearly. I have 24 country presence in Africa. Which one am I choosing? Why? That is one. The second is, for you to be attracted to Olam, I need to be giving a framework over there, and we put in a lot of effort for that. We develop Olam Livelihood Charter, and we come up with Growing Responsibly framework, so that you and Sophia there are assured that we are not here into this only to put in money and harvest some more money. It's not about that alone. We have to work with the communities. So it's a lot of hard work, and each company chooses its own focus. So when Dubai wants to attract investments into Dubai, it goes out and puts in a lot of effort to attract investors. Similarly, other countries do that. I would only say, I would encourage what your government is already doing. It's a bit of a pathway, and you will see investors coming into Congo.
Thank you. I am Elvis Amecheta. I'm the president of Nigerian Chinese Chamber of Commerce, and had one time served in a presidential cassava initiative committee. My question, and probably a comment for Mr. Ranvia. I'm very impressed with your success story in agriculture in Nigeria, starting nearly 25 years ago. But I want to know, curiously, did you invest in agriculture production, or just in the business side of it? Because the reason I'm asking this question is that in the study we did in Nigeria, we discovered that the single most important issue begging for investment in agriculture is land development, land clearing. So that all these investments we're talking about, if only we can map out thousands and thousands of hectares of land and put in machinery at work to clear the land, I tell you something, the cooperatives and the small farm holders will know what to do. But this is what Africa is not doing. And if you have recorded this success, Ranvia, couldn't you have done that over the years? Thank you.
Thank you. It's a very important point that you raise, and thank you for that. I want to explain our journey a bit. I'll take a couple of sentences for that. To understand the challenges that a private sector player faces. When we started with $100,000 capital in 1989. After that, to go to the bank, we will get very short-term debt that we can use only for trading and supply chain management. We didn't even use to build our own warehouses, buy our own trucks. We had to use that capital and rotate it very quickly to be able to grow. We listed the company in 2005, and then we were able to get long-term capital. Agriculture production requires, at a corporate level, about 7-year outlook. That means I need money that I can invest. My investor will not pull it back. My banker will not pull it back in the 5th year, because I don't know how to pay him back. It requires long-term capital. We didn't have initially long-term capital or deep pockets. It took us 20 years to reach that level, 20 years of existence as a very successful corporate. Then we could start thinking of investing in agriculture production. So I would like you to understand the challenges that all this faces.
There's another point to make. Sorry, Ed. There are a number of conferences like this around the world, and there's one actually taking place at the moment in New York City called Global Ag Invest. And those conferences are based on a sort of venture capital, private equity type model. And those are the places that you need to be if you're trying to raise capital. That conference next takes place, I think it's in Singapore in September, if I remember correctly. You've got to think of Africa as part of a global supply chain. It's not just about Africa. There are different types of agricultural production. There are different types of models that are used around the world. You can go and market your country. You can go market your products at those types of conferences, and they're actually extremely successful.
Thanks, Mark. Another question, and one more here. Just 2 more questions now.
Hello. I'm Coach Harun Chimpi. I'm a communications officer for Global Foods based in Dubai. First of all, I thank the Dubai Chamber of Commerce for the organization they made so that Africa can be here, and I really appreciate for that. For sure, development starts in the center, then it goes abroad. I think it's not by mistake that at least Dubai has started attracting all parts of the world. My question goes to the investors and the policymakers in Africa. Dear investors, what efforts have you taken regarding the minimum wage to the African human resource? And dear the policymakers in Africa, have you tried to take some kind of efforts to see the minimum wage? Because according to my own view, I feel food security should be taken broad, as in it's a mitigating factor for the minimum wage. But I would like to know whether you have taken some efforts. For instance, I was in Tanzania. Originally, I'm a Ugandan, but I've tried to move around Africa doing the businesses for my company. What I realized is as if Africa has a similar mitigating factor which is not considered. And when I see all over the world, the human resource which is well paid brings out a good output. This is my worry. All people showing interest in Africa. For sure, in Africa, if we prepare well via policing, most especially the minimum wage, we shall be successful. Why? An African needs just an average payment to be considered. But when I try to ask some of the people where I go, I ask them, how are you comfortable at the workplace? For sure, it was worrying. And this is a worry not only to the employee, it's a worry to the government because the investors will run away due to maybe the strikes. So I'd like to know exactly, as investors, have you tried to take some kind of effort to ask the government what is the real minimum wage? Or even our policymakers. Sometimes maybe they don't mind. Because when I ask people, it's the same problem. So have you taken some kind of efforts as the policymakers? This goes to Madame Sophie on behalf of all African policymakers. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Sophia.
Thank you for the question. I think it's a good question, but it depends on the country, really. It depends on the resource envelope which you have at disposal. In Tanzania, we are trying. We are trying to improve the minimum wage as resources allow each year. But nevertheless, improving minimum wage alone without also encouraging production, you will end up having nothing to increase to the salaries. So we are doing both. Both strategies are being looked at. Thank you.
Thank you very much for raising a very important question. And our last question for today.
Great. My name is Nancy. I'm from Africa, Kenya to be precise. I do my business in Dubai, United Arab Emirates, and I promote Africa in Dubai. My question is to the Honorable Lady and to Olam. Living in Dubai, I have an Arab business partner, and the most common question now that you guys have come and said that there's a lot of land in Africa is, can we buy land so that we can grow food for Dubai? Question number one. Can we do that in Tanzania? Olam, to tie in with the question that the gentleman has just been asking, and by the way, Olam was an inspiration in my current business. I'll tell you that later on in a one-to-one session. I'd like to know the cashew nuts that you buy from Mozambique. And before I go there, we have a Swahili saying that mjinga akierevuka mwerevu yuko mashakani. That means that when the fool becomes wise, the wise man is in trouble. So my question to you is, the cashew nuts that you buy from Mozambique, and then they end up in Singapore, they're put in a nice little pack. I want you to take me through the process and then understand how much it costs when I finally buy it in a Kenyan supermarket as a snack product vis-a-vis what you pay the farmer in Mozambique. Thank you.
That's two tough questions. Sophia, can you get land to grow food?
Thank you. I'll just answer one, the issue of can we buy land. In Tanzania, as I said, we are not selling land. Land in Tanzania is not sold, but it's leased. It can be leased for development, and you can produce food in Tanzania. If you produce surplus, it will be exported. It can be exported to any other country. It can be Dubai, it can be Kenya, it can be whoever wants the food. So the policy is open. It's not really tied to one country or whatever. That is the current policy which we have. And as I said, we are not selling land. Land is leased. You lease for development. If you are not performing, then we end up the lease. Thank you.
Okay, and Rajiv.
Thank you. Cashew is an interesting question. When we started working, that was our first commodity from Nigeria, and we used to buy the raw cashew and ship it to India, where the buyers used to be. India used to be the biggest processor of cashew. So Mozambique was a similar story. Across Africa, cashew was grown, and it would be shipped to India, and later also to Vietnam, when Vietnam developed that story, the cashew processing story. Cashew, as we eat it, comes in a shell. It's a very difficult processing. It's not like peanuts. It's not like almonds. It's difficult to get it out of the shell. So India had it. It used to be a household or a very small-scale industry over there, and later Vietnam took it on. Olam today is a leading corporate into processing cashew in Africa. So you have to remove the shell, and now you have got the cashew kernel, which is ready for export. If you want to sell it in the supermarkets in Singapore, it's nice that you take that name. We are headquartered there, but the big thing about Singapore is it's perhaps one of the 5 richest countries in the world today. So you can imagine, and on a per capita basis, so you can imagine the kind of discerning customer you will find there. To service the discerning customer, you need to prove at every single point along the value chain, how did the cashew come from, where, how was it handled? So at this stage, we are not in a position to give those guarantees out of Africa. So we ship the cashew kernel out. It would normally go to India or Vietnam, those markets. There it can get processed and packaged for the Singapore customer.
Okay, well, just as well I've taken away the microphone because the lady here was exploding in response, but we could talk about it one-to-one. Thanks very much. There is one final question, and you promised to be very brief.
Hello, just a question. You've been saying that there's a big potential in agriculture in Africa. And then you're looking for foreign private investors or looking for equity capital or going through bank development. All it is foreign investors. So my question is, where are the private African investors? Where are they? Where are they?
Where are the private African investors? Any answers? We look to the bankers first of all. Mark hasn't got an answer. Randy.
I'll leave a word. When China was developed, the money came from US. $300 billion got invested over a decade before China started looking a bit of what it looks today.
Okay. Any other thoughts? John?
I think he's saying that the money will come, and I think that's absolutely right. You know, when you look at Indonesia is a great example. I mean, once you start going and yields are there and returns are there, then local investors will emerge. You've just got to get it over a certain threshold.
Actually, that's absolutely right. If you look at the relationship between, say, China and India, in the mid to late 1990s, everybody talked about the great FDI boom into China and wondered why India was lagging behind. It takes about 10 years between the beginning of an expansionary liberalization of economies before you start to get a lot of the foreign money flooding in. So we probably just haven't actually got to the point where you're going to see a lot of capital flooding in. It will happen eventually.
Okay, well that brings this session nicely to a close, I think, which is again this financial constraint, which is one of the issues that we had, and we got all this opportunity, potential, gaps, needs, requirements, skills, the resources, and then, of course, where's the money going to come from? I hope you found that session as interesting and stimulating as I did. Thank you very much to representatives of business, but I wanted to say particular thanks to Sophia for being here, representing the people of Tanzania, the people about whom this is all about, and we heard the voice of the Congo. We've heard it from other countries as well. It's about the people, and this is what this conference is all about. So, Sophia, on behalf of myself, from me, everybody here, please, best wishes for the future. Show your appreciation to our panel.
Thank you.